Thank you so much for joining us for our ElevenLabs step-by-step training. My name is Karina. I'm the Executive Director at Bridging Voice, and I'm so thrilled to see a lot of our colleagues and collaborators and a lot of new names here today. Uh, I am going to hand this training off in just a second to my colleague Trinity and our wonderful collaborator across the pond, Richard Cave. But before we do that, I just wanted to give a little framing to this training. This training is coming out of about over a year of work that our organization, Bridging Voice, has been doing around AI and voice clones. And just to sort of let you know how that came about, as a technology company, we obviously keep our ear to the ground with the newest tech. AI has just hit us all full force, and we wanted to see how we could harness it as quickly as possible for the benefit of our ALS community. And voice clones were the obvious first step that we saw. So we reached out to ElevenLabs, which is one of the largest AI companies that are working on voice clones. And I should say also, to be just very transparent, we are technology agnostic. Our team, Richard's team, we work with all types of different message banking, voice banking, and this is just one more tool that we see in the toolbox that we can offer the ALS clients that we work with. But we were very excited for the potential of this. So we reached out to the ElevenLabs team, and they were right away on board with providing free licenses to the ALS community. And they actually went above and beyond and offered to give out 1 million free licenses globally, which my response was, thank you very much. There's not 1 million ALS clients in the US that we work with. And they said, we want to go beyond ALS. We want to do it globally. So we're very excited for that. But one of the reasons we're leading up to this training is that we are a small team. So you will hear more in the training about who is supporting who, where in the world. But our team is working primarily in the US. Richard's over in the UK, but there's 1 million free licenses out there, and we want to make sure they're getting put to good use. So we put together this training to share our insights, the pros, the cons, the challenges with voice clones, and give this information to practitioners, to pals, to caregivers, so that you guys can get this information out there to a broader audience. So what you're going to see today is weeks of work that Trinity and Richard have done, putting together all the knowledge that we have gained, working with hundreds and hundreds of ALS clients who have been using voice clones and who have had incredible success with it. So we want to share with you sort of the details, the ins and outs of what can make this successful. It's a lot. It's a 90-minute training. If it feels like a lot, if you are an ALS patient on this call and you were like, I just want to figure out how to get my free license, don't worry, we'll cover that. We also did a training earlier this year that is sort of a 101 version. So we will share a link to that training too. So if this feels too detailed, we have the top line training as well, but you will walk away from this training knowing all the ins and outs of how to take advantage of these amazing voice clones. So with that, I just want to thank you all for joining and thank you for helping us reach a broader audience and giving them the opportunity to take advantage of this. So with that, Trinity, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. And I am going to hand it over to my AI voice. So give me just a minute to switch that over. All right. Here it comes. Hello. I am so glad that you have joined us all today to discuss voice cloning. My name is Trinity, and I am a speech pathologist with Bridging Voice. This is my ElevenLabs voice. And here's my real voice. It's really darn close. Which is absolutely fabulous. So I'm going to go over just a couple of housekeeping pieces before we get forward or before we go forward. If you have not joined us before, please know that we are going to be sharing a ton of links as well as resources during this training. About a week after this training, you are going to receive an email with a link to our YouTube channel, which is where all of our recorded trainings are, as well as all of the links that we have here to share, as well as handouts, pretty much everything you could want. One-stop shop regarding 11 Labs is going to be for you in an email that will come out to you. Now, if you would like to, if you are staying for the entire 90 minutes and you would like to receive a professional development certificate to use towards your licensure or anything like that, there will be an attendance attestation at the very end of this training. You'll be able to fill that out. And again, in about a week, we will send you an attendance form for joining us today. You are welcome to put any questions that you may have into the chat. We have Bridging Voice team members here today, and they will answer your questions if they're quick. If not, we will tell you that we're coming up with those. At the very end, we will also give you a chance to do Q&A. And last time we did this presentation, we gave them 2 minutes. So we promised to give you at least 5 minutes. Just kidding. We'll stay to answer questions. We're going to be on time today. Um, but we will be able to answer all of your questions, but we may pop in some questions as well along the way. All right, Richard, would you like to start our slide
I
deck for
would.
us?
I would. And by the way, I thought that voice clone was astonishingly good. That was the first time I've heard it. Just like that's Trinity. Very good.
Right,
So
you can definitely tell it's me. All right,
yeah,
so thank you for joining us today for our 11 Labs hands-on practical skills, step by step from start to finish. You are going to be an 11 Labs pro before the end of this, within the next 90 minutes, I promise you. All right. So let's start out by telling you who we are. Karina told you a little bit about us. We are Bridging Voice. We are a small and mighty team. We have a very big impact. We've assisted over 3,500 people with ALS in 24 countries, but actually, I think that number is a little bit higher. But most importantly, what do? We specialize in customizations, innovation, mentorship, and education. And this happens to be hitting all of the above. But the most important thing to note is that our services are always free, not only for people with ALS, but also for allied professionals who may need some mentorship or support as they are also helping people with ALS. Important things to know here is that with each of the different individuals that you're going to meet along the way in this, and individuals I say because Richard is actually two different people in one. We will be sharing our 11 Labs license information as well as our contact information. And I'll be dropping those all into the chat. So here is your first one, which happens to be how to reach Bridging Voice. And again, we provide services within the United States.
yes. And for those folks that are based in the UK, I work with the MND Association, one of the leading charities for MND ALS, and we deal with the 11 Labs licenses here in the UK, along with the Scott Morgan Foundation. All we ask is for you as professionals, or if you live with MND within the UK, then you just email us and we will take it from there. Communicationaids at mndassociation.org, and that will be shared, that will be shown a lot of times. Additionally, the Peter Scott Morgan Foundation also covers global requests for 11 Labs licenses, except for the USA. And there is the link for them. They're a brilliant team, small and mighty. They're great. And even smaller and less mighty is Richard Cave. But I cannot deal within my role at the MND Association with any people living with MND outside the UK. So I decided to switch to my other role as a researcher at University College London and work with everybody else because everybody else was coming to me anyway. So that is for requests to 11 Labs licenses outside the UK, outside the USA. You're welcome to email me and I will do my best to support you. Does it sound messy? Yes, but it's messy because everything has happened so quickly. And that's all thanks to Bridging Voices, Peter Scott Morgan Foundation, and 11 Labs for just making it happen. So thank you, guys. What do we want to do? We want you to feel comfortable with 11 Labs. Now, you, if you're an SLP on this call, I am an SLT here. If I'm working with a client, I have the duty of care, just like you have the duty of care. And I think it's really helpful to know what voice cloning or voice banking options are on offer for you to offer your clients as the person delivering the duty of care. Karina was very clear. We are agnostic about technology. We are talking about 11 Labs today, but the MND Association offer all the voice banking tools. We fund everything. But we're talking about 11 Labs today because it has to be talked about, and we offer other training. So bear in mind that 11 Labs is changing quite quickly itself. Some of the screens get changed, process get changed. It happens like every other week, it seems. But we want you to be comfortable and understand how to get it done, how to get it done with your client. So that's why we're here. Shall I carry on?
Yeah, keep going.
So Karen mentioned 1 million free licenses globally are available to our clients. And Bridging Voice and Peter Scott Morgan, we are endlessly grateful to those guys. Amazing work. And there are lots of new non-profits in which have joined, which have been kind of signed up for partnership. Here in the UK, we have the Mouth Cancer Foundation, we have the MSA Trust, and we have the PSP Association, and there is more to come. And so, one thing that you could, wherever you are in the world, and whatever etiology you are working with, if you think that 11 Labs could benefit your clients, then get in touch, because what 11 Labs insist on is that non-profits or organizations that represent the communities in your area, in your world, get to allocate these licenses. They're very expensive, and the voice clones are very accurate. So we need to be careful. I'm going to hand over to you, Trinity.
All right. So let's talk about this voice creation and the difference between voice banking and voice cloning. So banking is what you would consider a traditional voice bank voice. This is a voice that is like a cappella or Model Talker or Speak Unique or the Voice Keeper. This is installed on your computer. It is what's called a SAPI 5 voice, okay? But here is something that's very, very important that I need you to understand. This SAPI 5 voice does not require a Wi-Fi or cellular connection in order to use it. A professionally voice clone or voice clone from 11 Labs is web-based, and it does require integration into your communication software, and it also requires um, cellular or Wi-Fi access. Now, you can have access to things that you've previously saved and cached onto your machine, but we're going to talk about that down the road just a little bit. But again, traditional voice bank voice, SAPI 5 does not require Wi-Fi connection, whereas the 11 Labs voice does. Traditional voice bank voice does not have a limit on characters that you can use. The 11 Labs does have 500,000 characters that you can use, and you're allowed to bank up to 1,500,000 characters that you can keep at a time to be able to use. Recordings. So with a voice bank voice, you are going to just read on the screen the sentences that are provided by the voice banking company. 11 Labs, there is no script. And it is very important for you to actually have a conversational or emotional flow during those recordings. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. The quality of a traditional voice bank voice is more monotone. It has characteristics of your voice, but it is a synthesized computer voice, whereas a voice clone has much more intonation, conversational style, and clearly sounds much more like the individual. as you guys heard during my first kind of intro. And since there were quite a few people who hadn't signed on, then I played my ElevenLabs voice, and it sounds very much like me, without a doubt. And that is a professional voice clone. Next slide, Richard. All right, so let's talk about some AI voice cloning information. So very important, especially as we are hitting this on a global scale and attempting to, improve the access for people all across the country, is that AI voice cloning can come in 32 different languages, which is pretty awesome. Especially that many of these languages are not currently represented in communication device software voices. So that is fabulous. Pro voices, there's two different kinds of voice cloning that you can do with ElevenLabs, a pro voice and an instant. So the pro voices are very authentic. Instant is less so. And we were having an interesting conversation before we signed on. Nachum, who is our technical director and founder from Brooklyn, New York, feels that with an instant voice, his voice sounds more of an English voice, as in more like Richard. And Richard shares that the instant voices for people that he assists actually sounds more American like us. So we were having a discussion about that. So pro voices are more authentic than an instant voice, but still sounds fabulous. They are very easy to build with very limited recordings, either on the spot recordings or maybe files that you might have had. And we're going to get more in depth in that. And it works with AAC apps and software. So predictable Android and iOS, speech assistant on iOS, and the Whisper app on iOS currently have integrations to be able to use the ElevenLabs voices. Also, you can use ElevenLab voices with our integration from Bridging Voice through Windows-based communication software, such as Grid 3, Communicator 5, Mind Express, Snap that is PC based. I want to be very clear about that, and also New Voice from PRC. Now, we talked about before, and I was very clear that traditional voice bank voices work offline, and voice cloning works online. So there is something to pay attention there. And we will talk about that a little bit further about how you can harness your ElevenLabs voice to be able to use it offline by doing things such as, like saving stored phrases, those sorts of things. And also, many of the communication device software do have an auto switch in it, which allows you to choose a voice, for example, such as a SAPI5 voice that you record through one of the normal voice banking companies as your offline voice, and then have your ElevenLabs voice as your online voice. Also, during our first presentation, Abby shared, with one of my coworkers shared the importance of that as well, because right now, ElevenLabs voices are not working in like telephone calls that you make through your communication software or communication app, or on FaceTime or on Zoom calls. So it is important for you to have your offline voice and your online voice.
Yeah, and actually, it's I would add that I as a person that's worked with voice banking for many years, I thought with ElevenLabs mainly being available online, except if you store messages or if it's in the history, then I thought that would be a deal breaker for many people. And actually, what I found with now here in the UK, we've worked with more than 200 people living with ALS, MND. All people talk about is the quality of the voice. That's it. And so then it's kind of less about whether it's online or offline. It's more about being authentic. And so the interesting thing is, well, what offline voice will people pick? And I predicted that most will pick, a cappella, say, or speak unique, or kind of a voice banking voice. But the truth of the matter is, and bear in mind, I am agnostic. I'm just telling you about what's happened here. is that people are not always choosing that, and that some people are actually moving from those voice banking to ElevenLabs, and that's just what's happening. There is, I can't dress it up in any other way. We just need to recognize that people make their own choices about things, and we go with that. So
So this is just a quick recap of how you can get ElevenLabs codes in various different locations. But here's the thing I want to tell you is if you get confused and happen to reach out to one of us and you are in the wrong place, no worries. We will get you to the right place. We'd rather that you reach out
mhm,
than to be kind of like, where do I start and not reach out because we really are in this all together. So please reach out and we are happy to provide a support, whether US, UK, global, or whatever you need. So we are here to support you.
yeah, yeah, we are. We're all one team.
Yeah. All
So
right.
yeah. Do you want to go on? I go on.
All right. So the next step is we are going to talk about how to actually create an ElevenLabs account. All right. We're going to go through account setup, how to actually put in your free pro code, how to handle credit cards. And I want to bring forward just a quick topic here, just about some equity, is that again, although we're giving you a code for a free account, you do still have to put a credit card in. We are hoping to have this changed in the future, but as of right now, that is where we are at. There are some individuals who may not have a credit card, and we do want to let you know that an option such as using like a prepaid Visa type credit card, maybe that just has $5 on it, something along those lines could be used. And we're going to also talk about how you can take out your credit card, hopefully. We'll get there. Um, and it is difficult to switch. For example, if you start with a free account and then you need to switch to a paid account, it is a little bit of a challenge. So we're going to talk about some areas. This process is easy, but the reason we're breaking it down into little tiny steps is because we have definitely seen that this is where the hiccups can happen. And if we can help you identify these hiccups ahead of time, since we have all gone through these hiccups, we're hoping to make it really smooth for you. And so that's why we are going through all of these things. And we'll also talk about how you can opt out of data sharing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a couple of guides here. Richard has a step-by-step guide that he shares, and then we as well at Bridging Voice have a guide that we like to share that clinicians can provide it to their users to be able to kind of get the ball rolling. As much as possible, clinicians, we love to try to make this as, our users as independent as possible in the process of setting up these accounts to lessen the load for you. And then as users, we want to make this as easy for you as possible. So there are a couple of guides that I'm going to be sharing. And again, remember, you're going to get all of these links in your visit
Mm-hmm.
email, your after session email as well.
And certainly the step-by-step guides that I've been doing, and actually as a bridging voice, it details all the steps in an easy way, I hope, and also it highlights what to look out for. It's, you know what, it's like you're probably thinking, is it worth it? There's lots, oh my God, there is so much to think about here. I'm not here to waste your time, and I'm not here to waste my client's time either. What I know is at the end of this process, which could be better, there is a voice clone in which I would say pretty much 200 out of 200 people I've worked with like. And that's why I think it's worth it to go through a bit of kind of, you know, these processes in which are not as good as they should be. But we've documented as much as we can from a practical perspective. So you as clinicians and you as people that want to go do it, to just go do it. And just like Trinity said, we're here to help. We like helping. In fact, so um, so here is a wonderful video that that shows how to register for an account. Is that right?
That is right.
All right. So I shall play it. Let's trust the technology.
Hello, this video will explain how to create your ElevenLabs account and apply your code for a free pro subscription. Open a browser on your computer and go to ElevenLabs.io. In the upper right corner, click on Login. If you have ever logged into the ElevenLabs website previously, you may instead see Go to App. If so, click that. If you have already created a free ElevenLabs account, log in here. Otherwise, click on Sign Up at the bottom of the page. Enter your email address and a password. Remember this login information as you will need it later to access your professional voice clone. Agree to the terms and click Sign Up. You will then receive an email to verify your account. Please open this email and verify before signing into the ElevenLabs.io website. To use your code for your free ElevenLabs Pro subscription, in the left pane of the website, scroll to the bottom and click on My Account. In the pop-out window, click on Subscription. Scroll down to the options for different subscription levels, and under the Pro level, click the Subscribe button. This will take you to a checkout window. On the left side, click on Add Promotion Code. Copy and paste the code you received in your email into this text line. Then click Apply. The total due today will then switch to $0. On the right side of the window, you will be required to enter a payment method, but you will not be charged. After entering your credit card information, click Subscribe. This will return you to the main ElevenLabs page with a confirmation that your subscription has been updated to Pro level. You can now begin creating your professional voice clone by clicking on Voices on the left side of the website and then clicking on Add a New Voice.
All right, that is where we pause for this one, Richard.
Okay.
So a couple things is that when you sign up for the account, it should send you that confirmation email. If you do not receive that confirmation email, please check your trash and or junk because oftentimes it does end up there. And I want to also talk about applying your pro code. After you apply your code, confirm that your amount due is 0. You can actually see in this screen here on the left, I have not entered a code. So the total due today says $99. If you do not see when you put your code in that it turns to 0, please stop. This is the part where I said, this is not challenging, but this can be a hiccup. So if it does not turn to 0, please stop and reach out and ask for help. That being said, I also want to bring forward that bridgingvoice.org/ElevenLabs has not only is where you can apply for codes, but it also has a frequently asked questions section with lots of help and topics such as this one that comes up frequently. Please feel free to check that out if you do happen to get stuck along the way. Yes, we are here to help, but you also have that as a wonderful resource for you.
Yeah. and you only have to go through this once, and then it's done, and then we don't need to worry about it ever again, ever, because for your clients, it's zero forever. It's there is no regular billing. Now, interesting thing, one of the, a big stumbling block, a big conversation that I seem to have all the time with my clients is, why they want to know, why do they have to put the credit card when it's going to be free for them? And I agree with that. And so we're trying to change things, but we still have the position where you have to put the card in to register the account. But what I do now is that I ask my client to submit a support request to ElevenLabs using these words. And what I found in the last this is very recent process. What I found in the last 2 or 3 weeks, that using these words, the credit card details get removed from the account. Now, what I've seen, what Trinity and Karina and I have talked about this at length, globally, there seems to be a inconsistent response from the support team at ElevenLabs, and some say you can't do that, some say you can. I've had 7 times where they have done it, and then basically they're not going to get away with changing their mind now. So so those are the words. And if you have any problems, then please get in touch, because this is something that clients really worry about. The other thing is about opting out of data sharing, anonymous data sharing. Now, it's really easy to do it, but I forgot how to do it. So so I went in and I created this slide just to remind myself as much as everyone else. So when you have created your account, go into My Account, which is on the bottom left of the screen, click on Terms and Privacy, Data Use, and then switch that little button to the left. And it says, right, no, I do not want to share my stuff, my anonymous stuff. And that's that. So it's entirely your choice what you want to do. And so if you want to opt out, that's fine. And also, I just want to add that, when we're setting up these accounts, you don't have to be on a Windows device. It could be on your Apple device. It could be on an Android phone. It's just a web page. So wherever it is, and there's no app to download. So it's all very accessible. Okay.
Keep going. You're on a roll.
Okay. So now professionals, so the allied health professionals or people that are working in this field to support people with ALS, you can have your own 12-month account, a demo account, which is a pro account, even though I thought it was creator, but it's a pro account for 12 months. And these are the ways for you to get it. So that means that if you email Karina at bridgingvoice.org, if you're a professional working in the States, then Karina will help you. And if it's outside the US, then I will help you. Or the communication aids in the UK will help you. So the idea is that for 12 months, you will have a code and you can create your own pro and instant voices. And what Trinity did right up front is the right thing to do, because Trinity started talking and they said, by the way, let me play you my pro voice. And whenever I do that to my clients, the conversation changes, because people understand what it is, why we're bothered about this, why we care. And so, and it's really great for 2 reasons why a professional should have their own account. The first is to be able to demo their own voice to their clients, to set expectations. And the second thing is you have to go through the process yourself. You have to do it. And that will make you, and that made me a stronger person. I actually have the emotional scars of doing it the first time. And so I feel much more confident. However, they are 12 months. And I asked ElevenLabs, it's like, what do you think happens to a caseload of an SLP at 11.5 months? Does it go away? What actually happens to it? And so Karina, who is on this call, is fighting the good fight to just figure that one out for the rest of us doing honest labor working with these wonderful clients. So hopefully we won't have that issue at some point.
So put it on your calendar. Put it on your calendar for 12 months so that you make sure that you get your code there. But also very importantly that Karina shared as well is that the codes do expire. So if you do receive a professional code, please go in and start your account. Start it within the first month. We actually don't know what that line is, but we're going to all just say here, start it within the first month. Again, start your account, go through the process that you have seen so far. Even if you haven't done your voice recording, fine. You just need to open that account within that first month, please.
Yeah. So your homework, I recommend all professionals that are listening to this go do this. And then it will just really help with your own confidence about it, but also sharing with your clients. I think you should definitely do this.
This is
So
the important stuff.
okay, we're here. So there are two different types of clones in which are on offer with ElevenLabs, and they have different benefits and drawbacks. So the instant clone you can create in under a minute. And so if you're demoing or if your client has unimpaired speech still, then you can just click on the button in instant voice on the website, on the ElevenLabs website, and talk for 30 seconds about absolutely anything at all, hopefully in a conversational style, and within a minute or two you will have a voice bank. It's an instant voice bank, and it's just like stunningly brilliant. However, if you have if your client has an accent, or indeed if you have an accent, it's not great with that. It's about speed as opposed to just being brilliant. But it's not bad. It's really not bad, and it does not require verification. We will talk about that verification. The other thing is about literacy. It's like every other voice banking tool I know requires people to read stuff. And with this one, you can just talk. And that's it. You just talk about anything. And the other thing is that you can upload files so that you still don't need to talk. And have I missed anything on instant, Trinity?
I think you've got it.
Okay, so professional voice clone. If I have a choice and if my client is up to it, I will always go for professional. I'll just go straight there. If people are convinced, and I go for it's much better quality. Now, in order to create a professional voice clone, your client needs at least 10 minutes of recordings. It doesn't have to be the same recording. It could be more than 100 different recordings. And it could come from all sorts of different places. Like I had one lady up in Liverpool in the northwest of England here. She only had a WhatsApp voice messages, and she had about 50 of them. And so we use those. People have videos, and so we use those. And people have any combination of anything, and we just use them all just to get up to 10 minutes or more. The downside is that these voices suddenly start to get very authentic, and ElevenLabs quite rightly require a verification that the files you're uploading are your voice. And we'll talk about what that is if your client still has unimpaired voice from the recordings, or if their voice has changed or indeed lost. There are two processes and both work. The great thing about professional voice clones is that there is more emotion and more prosody. And if you heard Trinity talking with her bank voice, there was plenty of energy and emotion and prosody. It was pure Trinity. It absolutely was. And I just want to talk about fluency. Just to say that, this is the first voice cloning technology that I've heard that is not fluent, because it doesn't have to be fluent. when we talk, as you hear me talking, there are bumps and bumbles across the road or across the way. And actually, this is completely natural for me because, you know, I have a stutter, a stammer, and that's why I became a speech therapist. That's why I did it. So for, for me, fluency has always been, something to talk about. And I'm delighted that actually when I recorded my banked voice, and some of my clients as well, recorded with non-fluent speech, it came out as there were some bumps and bruises, there were some repetitions in there in the voice clone. And I was just thinking, well, if we want to do a voice clone of somebody's voice, let's have all the voice, not just the fluent bits. And so this is just a joy to behold. But on top of that, when we get to levels of authenticity like this, we need additional securities in place. And watermarking is something that ElevenLabs have put in to the Pro Voices that gives away imperceptibly to other systems that this is not a natural voice. This is a synthetic voice. And long may that continue. The final thing I want to say is that it does not matter how authentic these voices are. For us that's working in this field of AAC, it's not going to speed up the AAC. So this is a brilliantly authentic voice that works in AAC, and therefore SLPs of the world, we still have work to do here to actually just help people understand what this is and what it's not. And also with a voice bank, with a voice clone, however authentic it is, it's not going to say much difference. If we use Trinity's voice, it's not going to say much difference between, say, if Trinity was talking to a 3-year-old or if Trinity was talking to a policeman. Her banked voice would not be that much different. And so we have to put this into perspective. However, it's a massive, massive step forward. And I'm a jaded old speech therapist from South London. I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah, let's talk about this verification that we hinted to. First of all, I wanted to also recognize Christine's statement of in the instructions on the website, it states 30 minutes minimum for professional voice clone. Yes, it does state 30 minutes minimum, but that being said, we have made professional voice clones with 10 minutes. 30 minutes is optimum, just like the instant voice clone also states 2 minutes is optimum. So just to be aware of that. But let's talk about verification. So for the instant voice clone, you do not require a verification. For the Pro voice clone, you do require verification. There are 2 different types of verification. If you still have speech that is the same as the speech that you use to record with, so you don't have disfluencies to that level, you can do a voice match verification. So when you put your files in, it'll actually pop up and ask you to do a voice match. And so you will read a sentence that it provides to you, and it'll say, yep, that sentence recording is the same as the voice files that you have submitted. You are the same person. But for many of our clients, they will be submitting files that do not sound like them, even if it was only a month ago. And so a manual verification will need to be done. And a manual verification is where you need to submit a letter that states that the client or the person has a diagnosis such as ALS. And for example, their voice has changed as a result of dysarthria, or maybe now they're on a ventilator and they're aphonic, those sorts of things. And so we will be sharing with you a template of a letter that we fill out, that our speech pathologists here at Bridging Voice fill out, provided to the person who is starting their voice cloning account, and they just submit it when they submit their files. So we will be sharing that with you. All right, next slide. So how to do recordings. This is important. So as Richard previously stated, if your voice has not changed, then you can actually record with, for example, with a headset such as we're wearing today, right into the website by just clicking on the record audio. So you can either click to upload or you can record audio. So just clicking there to be able to record audio, you can do your 2 minutes-ish for your instant voice, or you could sit down and have a story about, to be able to do your professional voice cloning. And we're going to go into some tricks and tips about that in just a second. If you are not recording directly into the computer or the website, 2 other options for recordings, which are very commonly used, is either a smartphone or a tablet. We do want to share that smartphones have better microphones than tablets usually do. It is important for you to keep the distance the same. So, for example, if I'm holding my phone or someone's holding my phone for me, you don't want to make it move in and out because I'm going to sound like I'm getting closer and further away. And you want to be aware of your recording format. And we'll talk about that in just a minute, a little bit further. All right, so tricks and tips for a good recording. Make sure to reduce the background noise so that we're not hearing other things because it distorts your speech. This is one of the most important things is do not include other speakers' voices, okay? Only your voice. You don't want anybody else's voice to be in your recording. Be aware of the rate and pace of your speech. If you speak very slowly, then that is what your voice is going to sound like. Now, you heard on my ElevenLabs voice, I definitely did not do that because it is very representative of my speech. Trinity's speech, my voice is representative of me, and Richard's is representative of him as well. So speak as though you would normally speak. Beware of your volume. If you have very low volume to your recordings, it will make your ElevenLabs voice be very low, and in some cases impair your ability to increase the volume on your communication device. So please have normal conversational loudness. And if for some reason you don't have loudness, because you're losing breath support, for example, we will talk about how you can actually increase the loudness levels of your recording in just a minute. This is also very important, is make sure to include emotion. You heard emotion in my ElevenLabs voice because I recorded with emotion. So in a normal voice banking voice, they provide you with sentences that don't always even make sense, but to read. There's not a lot of emotion. You can't get too excited about cats or dogs. But what you should do is make sure, for example, read a book. Don't read a technical manual unless you have big feelings about it. Read a book, something that has feelings and emotion. Or, for example, have a one-sided conversation. So as a speech pathologist, one of the things I'll do is I'll say, okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and then we're going to record it. I'll ask you the question, wait for just a minute, hit record, and then tell me your story. For example, tell me your favorite story about a holiday that you went on, or, and don't forget to ask hard things too. Like if I ask, what foods do you love? Then also ask, what foods do you hate? Because you're going to hear that change of emotion in that speech. All right.
Yeah.
So now the recordings that you may receive as a clinician or the recordings that you may have as a client may not be perfect. That's okay. You can edit those audio recordings to remove background noise, removing other speakers, removing background music, and also to increase your volume to make sure you have a good audio quality. And we're not going to go into the process of how to do those edits today, but I do want you to know that Boston Children's Hospital has this on their YouTube site. They have an amazing library of how to do each one of these things, and using a free program called Audacity that you can download to your computer in order to do these. So please feel free to check out these videos. They are very, very helpful.
And actually, one thing that, another pain point, kind of that's a bit of hassle for us speech therapists or speech pathologists, is that because it's so easy to use recordings of a huge variation of recordings like WhatsApp voice messages or Facebook instant messages or anything with voice, that I find myself editing video, editing stuff, and it just is. So it Audacity is worth learning, and actually John Costello's videos here are super helpful.
All right. Now, this is a huge piece of help for, it's interesting, even though Richard and I are the one, as well as our team are the ones that are putting this on, we continually are learning from each other. And this is one of those really big pieces about learning that has just made such a difference here. So, couple of different things. We oftentimes get short little recordings, such as voicemails or something along those lines. They must be at least 8 seconds in length to even put into ElevenLabs. Now, that being said, there's also a limit on how many files you can put into ElevenLabs. So it is better for you to take files such as a ton of voicemails and stick them all together. It also makes it easier for editing as well. So uh, Ashley with ALS Northwest has created a guide to very easily, with 3 clicks, help you to take 100 voicemails, 200 voicemails, whatever it is, combine it into one file and just put it all together in one nice, beautiful package. So I put the link in there for you about how you can easily be able to combine those together. And that being said, let's look at those voicemails, which is the next slide, Richard. So this is one of the biggest tricks that I have is usually people will tell me, no, I don't have any recordings of my voice. I don't have any YouTube and I'm not on social media, that sort of thing. But what most people don't know is that in within your cell phone, if you look at your voicemails, you'll actually see at the bottom of the list a deleted messages folder. And if you don't go in and clean out those deleted messages, they will live there indefinitely. Now, there are some carriers and some phones that we have found that do auto delete after a certain period of time, but we don't know that date and time. So it's always worth it to ask your friends and your family, hey, go check your deleted messages and see if you have any from me, because it's very easy to do. You go into the deleted messages, you go down to the person, for example, this was me sending a message to Abby. So Abby found my voicemail, and then you can hit the upload or the send, and then you can just email it to yourself to be able to use it. And we have a full in-depth guide on how to do that. And I have put that into the chat for you as well for harvesting those messages. I love this. Nakam just shared, I just worked with a client an hour ago who got from her children 104 voicemails for 16 minutes of audio, which created a professional voice clone. Perfect. Just last week, speaking of that, I was actually in a session with a woman and her sister-in-law, and they're very good friends. And while we are sitting in the session, the sister-in-law found 7 voicemails, and we were right there, and we were able to create an instant voice clone for her, like in the session, because she was able just to send them. So it's absolutely wonderful. Okay, but another great place for you to get audio from is videos. And this is a little bit daunting for people until you realize how easy it is. It feels overwhelming, but it's really easy. Again, using that free program called Audacity. So we're going to watch a little video about how easy it is to get straight audio out of a video.
In the Audacity program, go to File, Import, Audio. Locate the video file that's saved on your computer in whatever folder it's saved in. Click the video file to highlight and then click Open. Alternatively, if you have the file open on your desktop or from a folder, drag and drop it into Audacity. Then the waveform will show that your audio is in Audacity. Click File, Export Audio. and export to computer. Here you can change the file name that the audio file will save as, and by clicking Browse, you can select the folder where you want it to save. Make sure the export range is entire project and click Export. You'll see the file be exported, and then you can close Audacity. There's no need to save the project before closing because the audio file is now saved on your computer and can be uploaded to the ElevenLabs website to create your voice clone.
That is how easy it is.
That's a great video. Hands up who did that video.
Abby, who you guys will meet in the Q&A. She's here with us today. Abby makes all of our videos.
Oh, just so well. And it's such a calming voice as well. I just feel chilled out. Right, let's have a look. Yeah. So
All right. So let's talk about uploading files. So file type is important for you to pay attention to. And Nachum can go in depth about different file types here. But that being said, saving them as an MP3 or an MP4 is going to allow you the biggest flexibility. WAV files can be used, but if they get too big, ElevenLabs doesn't like that. So MP3 or MP4, and Richard recently tried the Opus file type, which comes from WhatsApp voice recordings. And again, you can change a file type by using Audacity. So just the way that you saw Abby doing the export, one more step in that is actually being able to choose the format and being able to choose, for example, MP3 files to be able to do that. Again, very easy.
fabulous. Right.
All right. This one oftentimes tricks people up. And it doesn't need to, again, because it is so easy. So let's go ahead and let's check this out. Should be a video again.
To upload your audio for your professional voice clone and remove background noise, first, click in the upload area and locate your file to open. Alternatively, if your file is in a File Explorer window or on the desktop of your computer, you can open the location where your file is saved, then drag and drop it into the upload area. Next, to remove background noise from audio samples, click this check mark. When you scroll down, you'll see your audio file under Samples to upload. I've deleted the duplicate here, and now I'll click Create Professional Voice to start uploading these audio files and creating my professional voice clone.
That's great. Another great video.
So again, because it can be so easy, some people do have a tendency to get kind of tripped up on that. It's truly just drag and drop or go ahead and click and bring in.
Yeah. So all of the pretty much most of the major providers have their own how-to guides for once you've created an instant clone, or if you have a clone or a pro voice clone, you can then use them in the main AAC apps, in which certainly all the people living with ALS, MND, head and neck cancer, the kind of people that I work with use. So for predictable, they have a step-by-step guide of the video for speech assistant. They have a step-by-step guide as well. And the wonderful Bridging Voice team, who truly are wonderful, they have a whole bunch of resources for enabling how to get your ElevenLabs voices into Communicator 5, Grid 3, Mind Express, Snap, the PC-based version, and New Voice. So they have all the stuff. And actually, you know, I use, although I'm thousands of miles away from the Bridging Voice team, I use their stuff all day long. And the good news is that, you know, kind of Bridging Voice and me, we've worked with all the providers to help make sure that if people choose an ElevenLabs voice, or if people choose a speak unique voice or an a cappella voice, that it does not limit their ASE choices further down the road. And so that's the same here. And fortunately, all the all the main ASE tools that people use can use ElevenLabs voice. Grid 3, thank God, are coming up with a easy to do, easy to operate integration for ElevenLabs, just like any of the other voices. So here is what it looks like. Here's what it will look like once it comes out. I hope it comes out soon. You just go into speech and settings, just like normal. You choose speaking voice, and then you select an online voice, and then look, there's ElevenLabs. And following this step-by-step guide, you will have found the API key. Just bang it in there, and then all your ElevenLabs voices are ready to go right now.
So super important just to let everybody know about as well is that I just shared again our integration site, that this is our integration guide that has all the different step-by-step processes of being able to integrate the voice within communication software. Now, if you need assistance and you're within the United States, you are always welcome to reach out to Bridging Voice. We will assist you with this. If you are outside of Bridging Voice, of course, you've got Richard as well as this guide as well. So you've got both options. Predictable and speech assistant, we have given you links for both of those, whether it be a video or whether it be a PDF. So they as well will provide you with support to be able to integrate within their apps as well.
Yeah. And once it's done, it's done. And then you can move on to something far more fun. Okay.
So let's talk about this online offline situation. So as we said before, again, the SAPI 5 voice offline use, the voice clone online use. But as Richard states, how can we mitigate that? How can we get around that? This is the way to get around this. So using the tools that are already within the communication software, such as the being able to save phrases. And so what you see here on the screen, you see grid 3 phrases, communicator, predictable, and speech assistant. Of course, as we know, there's a lot more other ones, but I couldn't fit them all on the page. But you can say what you want to say when you're online, save it, and then be able to then say it when you're offline. The important thing about this to note is that what you include in that utterance or linguistic unit is important. So if I say, I love cat at home, and then I go out into the community and I say, I love cats, that is not the same thing. And so that will not pull from what I had previously said while I was online. So that's why using these phrase storage areas are so important. Plus, it also just speeds up communication, as we know, and improves the flow. We have really encouraged people to do something like this, especially if they're going to give presentations or something like that, where they're kind of preparing their speech ahead of time. Do it at home. You can also run it to be able to hear what it sounds like and be able to make some of those changes as well. Then when you're out and about, you then have this voice that's ready for you to want to use.
Yeah. So it's kind of a tricky concept, but it's only novel speech in which requires Wi-Fi connection in ElevenLabs. What that means is that if I have typed, I like Chelsea Football Club, and I played it in my ElevenLabs voice and it went online a month ago, and then today I typed, I like Chelsea Football Club, that will be in my history within my app. It will not need to go online. It will be on my device. And anything I've saved in these stored messages will be on the device. So none of those need to be on, I need to be online for. The only time I need to be online with ElevenLabs voices is if I'm typing something novel, like I don't like Arsenal Football Club. That would be a novel, and it would have to go. So it's just one of those things in which, you know, we just pick up.
All right. Look at us on time, Richard. I'm
That's never
very proud
happened.
of us.
I know.
All right. So in conclusion, again, want to go back and restate that there are multiple voice baking and cloning options. And it is important that people understand the pros and the cons of each of them, know what is best for the client, and be able to let the client make a decision. That being said, there is benefits to having an offline voice and an online voice, especially for the current technology limitations that we have that do not allow the voices to be used from a communication software through a telephone call or through FaceTime or through Skype, some of those things. Please know that this is a rapidly changing landscape, as in, like, we are learning things just in the process of doing this presentation within the last couple of days. New things are coming up, and I will have said hot off the presses a couple of times today, without a doubt. So some of these, when you log into the ElevenLabs account or interact with it, you may find that looks a little bit different, but hopefully you have the resources and be able to troubleshoot those and or know who to contact so that we can help you and provide you with support. Um, and most of all, we hope that as a professional, you feel more comfortable to be able to support people using their voice cloning and to consider that as an option. But at the same time, I want to empower other users, people with ALS, and using the voice to share and talks amongst yourself, because we know that you have awesome support groups, you have Facebook groups. So being able to share this and to encourage other people as well to consider
Yeah.
voice cloning as an option. And then lastly, I also want to share that there is a global peer support forum as well, that is here and available. Richard, next slide. And so here it
Yeah,
is.
here it is. So this is a peer support forum. Now, I talked about homework for professionals that are listening to this. The first homework for you is to create your own voice clone using the professionals code and just go through. The second thing is join this. Join this, because it's literally a whole world. There are people from New Zealand, Australia, Asia. There are even people from England. There are people from the US. And we're all trying to do the same thing, doing a great job for people living with ALS, people living with head and neck cancer, people living with MSA, PSP. The only thing you need to do to join this is email one of these three people, and we'll just get you in. And we would be delighted to hear from you. It is very active. Everyone's got loads of opinions. Okay.
All right. So here at Bridging Voice, we have trainings every month and a half, or every couple weeks to every month. And our next training is coming up on April 22nd at 3 o'clock Eastern time. And it is going to be alternative access to Android for communication. And we would love to have you join us about that. Next slide.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow, Richard.
I was doing so well.
You were
Everything went
doing
so
so
well.
well.
I'm so sorry. Let me just I can't believe it. I thought I actually had the job there. Let me just
We might still hire you. We'll see.
let's see. Excuse me, I'll just do a quick tap dance while it comes. Here we are. Yes,
All right.
there you are.
Perfect. Oh, back up one.
Back up one.
Okay. This training, as well as all of our trainings here at Bridging Voice, are available on our YouTube channel. So as I said before, in about a week or so, you should receive an email with all of the resources that we have shared here today with you. And we also will have a link to our training on YouTube if you want to go back and review, if you joined late, if you didn't realize that we had time change over here and you joined at the just about 10 minutes ago versus a little over an hour ago, please know that you will be able to go back and see the entire training there. Next slide. If you are here and have stayed with us and would like to receive a professional development certificate, please feel free to, oh man, and I thought that I was doing well, Richard.
Oh,
Here, I know, right? You're in good company.
oh,
Here is the attendance link that I need you to fill out to let us know that you attended all the entire time with us today. So please fill that out and we can provide you with a certificate of completion. And you can always reach out to me. And lastly, we are at the good part, which is question and answer. And we left lots of time. But if you would like to reach out to us, info@bridgingvoice.org and richard.cave.17 at ucl.ac.uk. So
yeah.
at this point, Richard is going to stop our slide. You are welcome to turn your camera on. You are welcome to turn on your microphone. Any questions that you may have, you can add them in the chat. Our team members for Bridging Voice happen to be here, and so we can answer questions for you. And we would love to answer any questions that you may have. Abby and Nachum, don't forget to unmute yourself so you can answer. That way you're ready.
Hello.
Perfect, perfect.
Testing, testing.
Testing. Received, Nakam, received.
So there are a lot of you. There are 46 of you in our chat.
Great.
One of you has to have a question. So don't be shy.
I
Ask
just saw
away.
Christine, go on.
Christine.
You go.
Hi, guys. Am I on first off?
You are.
Okay, great, great. So I kind of delayed doing this, but I did do my whole professional voice today, and I was really impressed with how well it went. I think you guys are probably more being more smart about what you're using as far as tools for doing the recordings. I just used the AVRX on my phone and was in a quiet room, and I'm really pleased with the outcome. So I thought it was very easy to do. I didn't have to do Audacity. I didn't do anything with any sort of filtering out of excess sound or snippets. But is there anything in there that will change things, or if I add more, is that going to improve the quality of my AI voice? And is there a way for certain things that I know I say that it doesn't say correctly? Like I say orange and it says orange in this kind of a weird way.
Well, I'm glad that you actually asked that question because we had that question at our first training today. So you are able to do some pronunciation changes actually within the software that you are able to go in and change those. So for example, within Grid 3 or within Communicator, you can go in and change those pronunciations to phonetically. So that is a way to address those, especially for family names. Nachum did say that ElevenLabs has figured out how to say his name finally, which, by the way, most communication software does not. It says Nachum instead of Nachum. And so it does learn that. So that was good for that. But that is kind of the best way for you to do is go in and change the pronunciation unless someone has anything else they'd like to offer.
I do think that in order to add recordings, I think you have to redo the professional clone. There's no way to add it after the fact, but it's, and I think you do have to do the verification again. But so in your case, that wouldn't be difficult, but for other people, that could be a pain in the neck. But you are able to improve it and add more and more because we have a bunch of clients that have been, they add podcasts at a time of their audio. And we do have a few clients that had a lot of audio and their voices sound exactly like their podcasts. So how much time did you put in? Because I'm surprised about the orange. That it should have gotten that one.
Yeah, so probably like 32 minutes worth. And I read some emails out loud. I read some books. I kind of did some free form talking. But I would, I guess uncanny was my first reaction. And then I started getting, hey, how about this? One of the things I was also surprised with was I said, hey, Becca and Kim, I wanted to tell you. And it went, hey, Becca and Kim. And it was kind of like this like weird kind of pausey thing. And I'd be like, ooh,
So,
that would cue me in that this was AI. But the other
so
stuff
you can
was
adjust,
freaky
yeah,
good.
you have a lot of adjustment and control over those.
Hmm.
Especially you're going to see that with the cloning versus with the traditional voice bank. How you use punctuation and
Hmm.
actually changing the punctuation makes a significant difference.
Okay,
So
good to know.
exclamations and question marks and commas, it really does make a big difference. So
Hmm.
that's kind of why I said the online versus offline is that, you know, if you want to try it out before you're giving a speech, do it at home, run it, see what you think of it, go in and change those so that you can then have it sound the way that you want it to sound
Right,
by
right.
playing with that punctuation. So you really get the emphasis on the right syllable.
Mm.
Got it.
Christine, I would add too, I did have one client who both her first and last names were not like super apparent how you would pronounce them from like the spelling. And so she actually did redo her audio and added some places where she said both of her own names in the recordings. It worked for
Hmm.
one, it didn't work for the other. So it did start pronouncing her first name correctly after that, but it did not start pronouncing her last name correctly.
Hmm.
So, we just thought, let's just give it a try and see. And so she did, just anecdotally, that was one case where adding some additional recordings helped a little bit, but it didn't resolve everything.
Okay, okay. The other thing that I was thinking when I uploaded, because I was recording in smaller amounts so that I could email it to myself, because I'm doing it on my phone, but I'm emailing it to my, Windows account to download to upload. And then when I went to go do everything, I was reading the instructions and it said something like, in like 10 minutes at a time. And I'm like, oh no, these are like 4 minutes. And I'm like, well, let's see if it takes it. And I ended up uploading like 9 files of about 4 minutes and it was great. So I thought that might have thwarted me or maybe I misread it, but it worked just fine.
Do file links of all different lengths.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go
William,
for it.
Can I go ahead?
Yes,
Yes.
William.
Yes, I'm a person with ALS, and over the past 3 years, I've done a cappella and also through Boston Children's Hospital with Team Gleason Help. I've done the uh, voice messaging, I think it's called,
Voice banking
voice banking,
or the message banking.
message banking. And so my question in getting started with ElevenLabs is, how does all that work and my speech that I've done in the past, how does that all get incorporated into the ElevenLabs cloning?
So right now we can't take your ElevenLabs recording and put them into or sorry, we can't take your acapella and put them in to do the ElevenLabs. It's not going to be the same because again, you just read sentences, so you're not going to have a lot of emotion there. Your voice still sounds really good. I would have you just record right now and take those recordings and put those right in.
Go straight to cloning with ElevenLabs and record as much information as I can now?
You don't need to record as much. You don't need to do like, uh, an hour worth. Um, it, 30 minutes is ideal. If you can't get to 30 minutes, okay. But remember too, you could also record a little bit at a time. You could record 5 to 10 minutes at a time and then bank those up until you got to 30 to make a beautiful voice. You could tell stories, any story that you wanted. You could just record it and tell a favorite story, a funny story, a sad story. You could read a book, as Christine had shared earlier, which I also did. I told stories and read a book as well. But I would start. I think your voice sounds fabulous.
I think there's something I want to add here because William, you do have a wonderful voice, but for people whose voices may have changed, having already done a cappella or speak unique within the UK or another tool, what you can do is you can email a cappella and speak unique or any of the others, the voice keeper, any of them, and just email, say, can I have my original recordings back? We're not talking about the voice bank, we're talking about your recordings. And you don't need to give a reason, because here in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same in the States, we are protected by law. Those recordings are yours. You own them. You don't need to give a reason. You just say, I want them back, thanks. And then loads of people here in the UK, they just load them straight into ElevenLabs. I know they're short, but we can group them together. And or your message banking recordings, we can take them all. And you can add anything else you like, if you choose to, and then see how it sounds. So this is particularly important for people whose voices have changed or have lost. And those may be the best kind of source of recordings of which they have. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. And you will have my name already at Bridging Voice. And I'll just say a quick hello to Eddie, who's helped me, and I've talked with him a few times over the past 2 or 3 years.
Great. So Eddie is actually away. I will send an email. I'll send an email out to you and to Eddie. That way he can check in with you when he gets back and he can work with you on getting your ElevenLabs account set up.
Thank you.
Could I just add one thing that I forgot to mention earlier? That, you know, the ElevenLabs enable people to speak in 32 different languages, 31 in addition to English. And for the first time as an SLP, I can work with people who would like to speak in Hindi or other South Asian languages, Tamil, Indonesian, Korean, Japanese, along with South American Spanish, Brazilian Portuguese, all these options in which, like 6 months ago, all I would say is, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Now it does. But on top of that, if you bank your voice in any one of those languages, you can type and speak in any one of the other 31. And so that means for people who are blessed to speak in additional languages, they only need to go through it once, and then they can talk away. And you know, these voices are so authentic. I was working with a man in Colombia down in South America, and they have the most beautiful flavor of Spanish there. It's just beautiful. Colombian Spanish is lovely, and he banked his voice in Spanish, and it came back not only in Spanish voice, but in Colombian Spanish voice. And the interesting thing about, I'm really interested as a speech therapist, is what he said afterwards. He said, because my voice is so much like me, how I used to talk, more of my friends are coming to talk to me. And I said to him, stop right there. Tell me that again. Because one of the big things we have in MND ALS is we want to keep people together. We want people to keep together through very difficult times. And this was the first evidence I've seen where these voices are so authentic, it might actually help do that. And so, I kind of mentioned that I'm at University College London. I'm going to do some research on exactly that, because this really matters. Sorry, I shall stop talking now.
No, you're fine. I mean, I was just thinking the other day, Karina had asked us, ElevenLabs was wanting some some case studies of impact and how these voices had impacted each other. And she asked us for some case studies, and like we flooded her within like 5 minutes just of the impact of these voices. I have a young gentleman who his voice sounds so much like him, and it's been a few years since his friends have heard him. And these are all like college kids that they're actually asking him to repeat like 5 or 6 times, not because they didn't understand him or they didn't hear him. They just love hearing his voice. I also had a gentleman who just the other day, we got his voice and he started to cry. And so, his wife and I immediately said, "Oh, you don't like it." And it took him a little bit to kind of regain his composure. And then he then used his communication device, said, "No, I love it." And then started to cry again. And then we were all crying.
Hi, everybody. My name's Carrie. I'm an SLP in Canada. I've been working with ALS for about 19 years. So I have to tell you, I went to the ALS symposium in Montreal in December and had John Costello speak on this, and Bridging Voices, of course. And I cannot tell you how excited I was to get back to work in January, and down the hallway, that I can't wait to talk to all our previous patients that had voice banked and start this process. So thank you. And I do have a question, although I bet I can find it on the frequently asked page. But anyway, I obtained my code for the pro license and went to, input it in that section on the left-hand side, and it never zeroes out. It goes to $22 no matter what I do. So then I talked to ElevenLabs, and the Scott Morgan Foundation, and they thought that perhaps I had had a creator code by accident. So then I tried creator still, and then it just brought it down to $11. So I'm not getting zeroed out. And by now I'm kind of thinking my code might have even expired. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on this.
I would email Richard.
Hi, Richard. Guess what I'm doing tomorrow morning?
Yeah. No, I think it's fine. I think we need to give you a new code. And
Okay.
actually, what I find is that there are two options for these codes. There's just the code, and then there's a URL to the code. And for the
Okay.
professionals, I've had more like clicking the URL straight in, and it seems to kind of do it. But there have been a few problems like this. Initially, the codes given to professionals were creator, and so there may have been some issue with the crossover. But yeah, let's talk, and we'll
Sure.
get it sorted out
Okay.
tomorrow, because it's 10:30
Excellent.
here
Thank you.
here in
Yes,
the UK.
tomorrow for you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Even
So
though I'm a 24/7 guy, I just had it.
Richard, Emma shared that she also experienced, shares your experience. She had a client using ElevenLabs that said he used it more because he liked the sound of his old voice. It also reduced his children to tears hearing it for the first time. So be prepared for that. That is going to happen as you're supporting people, because it is just so impactful, these voices.
And also, people are using it for lots of different reasons. We got two examples, and I promise I'll be less than a minute. The first example, I was working with a man in Winchester, beautiful city, just to the west of London, and he wanted to create his Pro ElevenLabs source because he wanted to read stories to his grandchildren. That was why he did it. And so we created the Pro Voice, and then he recorded the stories for his children. And this is what he wants to. He wanted to give his grandchildren the gift of voice, so that they can have it and people look at the legacy. And of course, the other thing is that I worked with a man who he had a father of the bride speech, which needed to be done. And he wanted to make sure that he recorded it in the voice that he wanted to say the words that he wanted to his daughter, even if he may not be there. So that was, this is the stuff that we're really talking about here. This is about someone's working. Yeah, working. Anyway, so there are a million one uses, and thanks. because these are people's voices, they can do what they want with them. And let's have more of that, please.
Danica said that she has a client with MND who's using her Pro Voice to create how-to guides for all of her support workers so they know how best to care for her and complete activities. Yes, I love that. Okay, I knew it was coming. Ronaldo, it's fabulous to see you. And you have a question for us. He always has the best questions, so I love it. Nahum, Richard, this is for you guys.
Oh, that's it.
Can ElevenLabs cloned voices be used in Windows Narrator?
No. Okay. So, Ronaldo, no, because Windows Narrator can only use voices that are installed on the device. It doesn't have the capability of going out online. So at least for now, maybe one day they'll give that option, but it may take a while.
But narrator uses online voices in
They're
Windows 11.
Oh, yeah. So, but so I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I mean, the old Windows Narrator only used, but even which online voices does it use? It's using Microsoft online voices.
Yeah, Microsoft.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's going to work because it's a completely different. They have their own channel to their voices, but I didn't know that it worked in Windows 11 with online voices. I'd have to check into that more either way.
Ronaldo, I encourage you to prove Nahum wrong.
Oh,
You'll
yeah.
get an extra gold star. Give it a try and then come back and share with us. Again, because we are all learning so quickly,
Yeah.
please, if you hear something today and then you find out something different, come back to us. We want you to share that information with us. So please come back and share that with us.
Okay.
All right.
And actually,
Erica said, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, and actually come and share it with the global forum as well. So come and join us and just help people literally globally.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Trinity.
Erica has a question. Can you use ElevenLabs for singing? I often sing lullabies and songs to my kids and wondered if this would be supported by ElevenLabs. So, Erica, I want to encourage you, please do a recording of singing. Okay? If you are a singer, please record singing because this is not ready yet. It's not ready yet. It is really close. And you actually can find singing voices on the ElevenLabs site. But what we're asking for is speech voices that can sing. And they are really close to having this ready to share, but it is not there yet. So I would love for you to do a recording so that when it is ready, you are ready, that will be available to you. All right. Danica is going back to share about her client that is doing the caregiver training. She says she is absolutely loving it and it sounds like her and she doesn't have to add subtitles to her videos. People can understand. Valerie has a question. Can I ask about the option of multiple languages? I have a gentleman who recorded his voice in English and he has a heavy Chinese accent. Could he then type in Chinese and speak it in Mandarin/Cantonese?
Mandarin, yes. The answer is yes. Yes for Mandarin. One thing I haven't worked out, and maybe the Bridging Voice guys have, is for people who are blessed with speaking multiple languages, whether there's any recommendation for which language they should record. And I kind of have got various clients who are willing to try both and just see which one. But certainly the answer is yes. They just need that. Actually, you know what? Mandarin and Cantonese are written in the same way, pretty much. If it's not simplified or simplified, so you can pretty much do both.
On the ElevenLabs website, they just list Chinese. They don't differentiate Mandarin from Cantonese. They list it as a language.
Yeah, I think it's Mandarin.
Whichever voice is reused to do the recording is going to be the one that sounds best in the reproduced voice. So if someone wants their voice to sound better in Mandarin, then they would do their initial recording in Mandarin, and then their English wouldn't sound as good. So if they have a heavy accent anyway in their English, then maybe it would make more sense for them to do the recordings in Mandarin so they get the most natural sounding Chinese accent. And then the English would, and we do know someone that even did some trick. We've seen some tricks also. We've had one or two people that went and created another account that was paid for, so that they could have a professional voice clone in 2 different languages, and they created them each independently of each other. So
You could also try multiple so one of the things that so you can have one professional voice clone, but you can have multiple instant voice clones. So you could even have somebody, try it, for example, in this case, have the gentleman record in English, but you can hear his Chinese accent. You can also have him record in Chinese as well. So you could try the instant voice clone to help you a little bit to determine. But as Richard shared, instant voice clones don't do as well as professional voice clones with accents, but it might be interesting for you to try.
I have a client who did that. He speaks Russian and English, and he did an instant clone in Russian and his professional clone in English, just because he had more recordings in English already. But he does, even though the Russian clone is instant, he likes how that one sounds in both languages better. So he likes the Russian voice speaking English more than he likes the English voice speaking English, because it has like his Russian accent on it more. So I think it really comes down to personal preference. I think what Trinity said is really important to try making. You could try making both. You could try an instant in both first and see which of those you like better and use that as the guide for which one you then put in for professional if you're able to record. The other thing I will say too is I do have a client who did his recordings in English only, but he speaks Spanish. And it is very hard for ElevenLabs. If you go from English to Spanish, it has both Spain, Spanish, Catalan, Catalan, and then Mexico or American Spanish has 2 different dialects listed, and it does not know which one of those to use. So he is like from Spain, but his voice often comes out in what they feel like sounds more Mexican dialect, and he can't go back and re-record. But the ElevenLabs staff did tell us in that case, if you're a Spanish speaker, it is better to record in Spanish so that it learns your Spanish dialect and then have that translated to English. If you can only record in one language, I know for Spanish, it's better to do that.
Thank you for sharing that. So Valerie validated your statement, Richard, which is thank you. The instant clone sounded very strange for this gentleman, but thank you for all of the suggestions. Again, that accent, but again, try it. The thing is about the instant clone is you can try it because there's no harm or foul to that. John said, I would love to use my voice using a British or an Indian accent. You have that option. Options are endless.
The interesting. I was going to comment about this that I'm British English. I'm London English, and but I was in a big conference and I decided I would speak in Hindi. And so I just typed a message in Hindi using my pro voice and I played it. And I asked if there were any Hindi speakers within the audience. And there were 3. And so I played this message, blah, blah, blah. And I asked them what my voice sounded like. And they said, well, sounds like a bloke from South London speaking Hindi. Which I thought was just the best result ever, because actually it's still me and they still understand it, and that's like, yes, I'm very happy with that. So,
but I don't think that John can do what he wants to do,
no, I don't think so.
because you can't change English to a different accent.
But
Yet.
your voice, John, would come out with an Indian. It would sound what I'll tell you
I'm
what.
saying,
I could play my voice in Hindi now, and
Right, but you can't do your voice in American English. You
No.
can't sound like me.
I would love to sound like you, Malcolm, but I don't. Yeah. Yeah.
That is something, I don't know if ElevenLabs will be adding it, but going back to my client who recorded in English but speaks Spanish, we did give that feedback that it would be useful if you could have a parameter where you could say, this is the dialect or the accent I'm looking for. And so if that becomes a feature, then you could switch between the UK and the US English at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the interest of time, it is we are now at 11 minutes past our time, which we could talk about this all day long. But
Good.
it is late by Richard. So that
It's
being
fine,
said,
fine.
you might
I have
turn
no
into a
social life, so it's fine.
So if there aren't any other questions at this time, I'm going to do a quick sign off to our online. So if you have been joining us on YouTube, I want to say thank you for joining us for this presentation today. And thank you, Richard, for joining us here at Bridging Voice. To all of you across the globe, thank you. And if you are on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe to hear our further presentations. I'm going to end the recording now. And again, thank you to everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, and they were brilliant questions. Thank you, everybody, for your questions and comments. That was superb.